Good day, everyone. Welcome to UnPontificated. My name is Vuyo. A few months ago, Travis Dhanraj, who was a reporter with CBC, quit, saying he could not continue at the public broadcaster with integrity. If you read this article from the National Post, his main complaint, as you can see here, says, I am stepping down not by choice, but because the CBC has made it impossible for me to continue my work with integrity. And his lawyer tells us down here, Dhanraj's lawyer, Catherine Marshall, said Monday that the CBC didn't want him booking conservative voices on his show. It turned out, to Travis's surprise, that there was a strong editorial direction that he was supposed to promote. So clearly, I mean, we all know on the side of the aisle, the conservative side, that the CBC does have a leftist bent to it. And this was on full display in this Power and Politics show that I watched yesterday. David Cochrane was, and he does do this a lot. Every time a conservative commentator that he has on speaks about a certain point, he will fact check them. And I don't see him do this as much with some of his, NDPers or liberal guests, liberal commentators that he has on. But this was really on full display yesterday with him and Lisa Raitt. Lisa Raitt, I don't know how the people of Milton voted her out, but they did. And I like this woman. But let's watch Power and Politics yesterday and watch the full bias of CBC towards conservative commentators' comments, especially against their Lord and Master, Mark Carney, on full display.
Conservative Party leader Pierre Polyv is once again taking aim at Prime Minister Mark Carney's personal wealth and making allegations about possible conflicts of interest. This comes after the Ethics Commissioner disclosed some of the details of the assets Carney placed in a blind trust. And Carney has also set up a series of conflict of interest screens designed to prevent him from making decisions to the benefit of his former employers.
We finally got a look at the Prime Minister's many financial interests. There is a cornucopia of conflicts of interest in these investments, like we have never seen before from a Canadian Prime Minister.
Carney's assets are worth millions of dollars spread across dozens and dozens of companies, but the blind trust and conflict screens meet ethics standards, and they are consistent with the past practices of Liberal and Conservative governments. But we're going to start there with the Power Panel. Lisa Raitt is a former Conservative cabinet minister. Brad Levine is a former national campaign director for the NDP. And here with me in the studio, Vandana Cotter was an advisor to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Good to see you all. Brad, let's start with you. What do you make of this? We knew Mark Carney has means. He's a successful business guy. He's complied with the law. And now that we have some details, a call for him to sell everything because he's in a conflict of interest. What do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting listening to Mr. Polyv come out and provide a new standard for him to apply to Mr. Carney, that similar standards, for example, Nigel Wright, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Harper, when Mr. Polyv was in that government. At the end of the day, it's very granular about blind trusts, screens, all these kinds of things. I think the real issue here is does working with the Ethics Commissioner and meeting a bar, is that good enough for most Canadians? What I think what Mr. Polyv is doing is he's saying, well, that's not good enough. I want a new standard on top of that. We keep changing the standards. Certainly, Mr. Carney has a tremendous amount of wealth. I think for Canadians to judge whether or not he's done all this, they're going to see, is he complying by the rules set out by the Ethics Commissioner? I think that bar is being achieved. Is there really any direct conflict that he's going to really make decisions based on enriching himself? Do you think really that's why he got into this position to begin with? I don't think so. So right. If you take a look at all...
I think most of us do think so there, sir. Mark Carney is not above using his position in having the ear of governments to enrich himself. He's done that before. He's done that actually a few times, and he has admitted it. We have it on tape. You can see it in some of my other videos. But Mark Carney has enriched himself because he's had the ear of governments, and he has had Brookfield invest in these companies that are going to take advantage of some of the things that the governments are putting in place. It's not above him, not at all.
All the issues that Canadians are facing, we've got Trump, we've got tariffs, we've got wildfires, whether or not Mr. Carney is exceeding the expectations or the rules that the Ethics Commissioner themselves are putting out. I don't know if Mr. Polyv doesn't have other issues that he should be maybe dealing with this upcoming week.
Lisa, I saw you shaking your head a few times.
He is dealing with those issues as well. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. Doesn't mean because you're dealing with this that you should ignore this. It's ridiculous, and it's politics. You see something, you're going to jump on it.
As Brad was talking there, why?
Well, because there's a binary choice made by the public office holder at the very beginning of this process. And if you have holdings that are going to be subject to conflict of interest regulations, your choice is either to, one, divest or to put in a blind trust. That's your decision-making point. The Prime Minister chose to go with a blind trust. As a result, everything that flows from that moment in time, I think, is fair game in terms of questioning whether or not the blind trust is holding, whether or not the conflicts are things that can be managed, because it is put to him, and I'm being very clear on this, he made the choice to not divest. That is one of the options that is given. If you don't take that option, you do open yourself up to criticism and to being watched as to how clearly and quickly and safely these conflict of interest holds or these contract of interest screens are put in place. I think it's completely legitimate for Pierre to point it out. I think it's legitimate for him to point out the fact that they could have divested as well as easily and avoided all of this discussion, but he didn't.
And here we go. So here's David Cochrane about to now jump on what Lisa Raitt said, and this jump, I think it's almost just a reaction. Oh, Lisa Raitt is saying something. Let me see what I can say too, and he's just going to repeat what she said.
The blind trust counts as divestment under the Accountability Act, right? You can divest in one of two ways. It says in the legislation: sell or use a blind trust. So it is divestment. Sure,
that's the
right?
point. That's
what she said, buffoon.
What I'm saying, though, what I'm saying is he had a choice to either liquidate or to keep in a blind trust. He chose not to liquidate. He chose to put in a blind trust, therefore opening himself up to criticism on how that blind trust is going to actually be carried out. And I think that's fair game.
Okay, Vandana, your thoughts on this?
I mean, I hear Lisa's point. I just don't think it benefits Mr. Polyv in this regard. And I think the reason is because most Canadians understand, and Ethics Commissioner has advised on this, that he has an ethics screen to them. I know it's complex, and I think it's meant to be complex because I'm sure there's a lot of holdings there of some sort. But I would say that I don't think that's what Canadians are thinking about. I think they're thinking about, to Brad's point, tariffs. They're thinking about the cost of living. And I think for Mr. Polyv, I mean, I heard his interview with Catherine Cullen, and I thought it sounded like he has grown a lot. He was talking about Conservatives are here to help support the government, to help protect Canadians against these tariffs. And that sounds better. But when I saw the sinister sounding statement of it about, like, he like, it's like a secretive type of, like, as if he tried to, like, slip it under and so no one would notice. I think that's why Canadians get tired of politics. They don't want politics for the sake of politics. They do want people to ask the right questions and to raise points that are legitimate. But I think in this regard, I don't think it benefits him in any way. I don't think most Canadians would pay attention. They think they know that there's an ethics screen. The ethics commissioner has said that was fine, and I think that's enough for them.
Well, so on this, because Brad mentioned,
I don't like about it, and politicians do this all the time. Canadians this, Canadians that, as if you all represent all of us. That's just ridiculous. There's plenty of Canadians who care about how our politicians are benefiting from their position. And sure, I mean, if he's done everything according to the ethics commissioner has looked at it and it's all fine, that's great. But sometimes you have to be above the minimum of what you're doing. And if you really cared about the country, you would be.
Sorry, you want a quick rebuttal there? I want to show something from the archives, but did you want to jump back in?
I know what you're going to show from the archives, so I'm maybe stepping on your points.
Yeah,
but I was just going to say that being around long enough allows you to actually experience this before in another way. In October of 2010, it was my friend Wayne Easter, it was Dominic LeBlanc, it was lots of different people asking the same questions about conflict of interest screens to Nigel Wright at the time, and we defended it. So it's turnabout is fair play. If they could ask the questions back then, we can ask the questions today.
Well, I was a younger man with hair in St. John's, Newfoundland when all of that was happening. So, but I want to play part of an exchange. Yeah. This is at committee, and Stephen Harper's chief of staff at the time, Nigel Wright, very successful businessman, came into public service with a lot of holdings and had to set up some of the mechanisms similar to what the Prime Minister is going through now. He was at committee, and one of the MPs asking him questions was a young man from Carleton Nepean at the time. Just have a listen to this.
Can you explain the purpose behind the blind trust?
This blind trust follows a form that was created and drafted by the Ethics Commissioner. I transferred all of my controlled assets into the blind trust in late October. The blind trustee is the legal owner of them all now, and I'm not to have any communication of any sort, no direction, no advice, no information about what's in there. I do not know and will not know what's in there.
There seems to be some misunderstanding.
So this is the CBC trying to show that Pierre Polyv is a hypocrite, that back in 2010, 15 years ago, he had an issue. He's here defending politicians who are coming into office, putting things in a blind trust, as opposed to now 15 years later, he's attacking Mark Carney for putting his holdings in a blind trust instead of liquidating them all. And okay, that's fine. You've done it. You've gone and shown Pierre Poilievre to double speak. But I just wonder if they would do this for anyone else. Would they do this for a Liberal if they were also double speaking? Because this happens on all sides. It happens a lot. If it's to your benefit of your party, you'll say one thing, benefit to another, not to a benefit to your party, you'll say another thing. It happens all the time. But CBC, our public broadcaster, who, should be, really shouldn't be taking sides, is here basically doing that. And it's just not on. It's just not acceptable. Our public broadcaster, who we all pay into, should not take sides. They should have journalism that is, not be seen to be taking one side against the other. And this is just blatant Liberal side of the Liberals.
Okay, that's from 2010. We went back 4 years earlier, too. The video for this doesn't exist, but the transcript, this is another committee appearance where Mr. Polyv, who's the Nepean Carleton MP at the time, debating with Duff Conacher from Democracy Watch. This is when the Conservatives were bringing in the Accountability Act. And he defends blind trust, saying we would not know anything since it's a completely blind trust, so we would not know what we held. That's why it's blind. You would have no knowledge that you owned it, so how could you possibly be voting in favor of your private interests if you didn't know what those private interests were? Brad, that sounds like a vigorous defense of the ethics laws that are in place, which were criticized today as not being sufficient.
Well, yeah, and what Mr. Polyv is suggesting is that there are two paths you can take. You can liquidate, or you can do the blind trust. When a conservative is up on the stand, then blind trusts are completely legitimate. They're 100% secure. Canadians have no concerns whatsoever. The decisions are going to be made in the Prime Minister's office that would enrich the individual in question. But then, of course, when Mr. Polyv is in opposition, only liquidation is the way to go, and blind trusts open the floodgates open to miss. It's hypocritical, obviously, because if they are both legitimate, they're legitimate in 06, they're legitimate in 2010, but in 2025 they're no longer legitimate. He was in government. He could have gotten rid of the blind trust and ensured he was in government for many years. Mr. Polyv was. He did not take the time to eliminate the blind trust as an option. Now we've got two options on the table for Mr. Carney. He chose the blind trust route, and unfortunately for Mr. Polyv, that's not convenient politically. So he now has to criticize it. But what he can't do is suggest that blind trusts are good for Mr. Raitt, Mr. Nigel Raitt, back in 2010, but they're no longer legitimate for the Prime Minister. Maybe he could make the case that for staff there's one set of rules and electeds there's another set of rules. But Mr. Polyv, after all the years in government, never made that case. And I think Canadians are just going to put up their hands and say, listen, as long as the Ethics Commissioner is there and he's abiding by the rules, they're probably not going to have too big of a deal with it unless they already had a problem with him being rich. They probably didn't vote for him back in the federal election anyways.
You know, Vandana,
this guy is an NDP commentator, and all he's doing is attacking Pierre Poilievre. You know, he's not saying anything about Mark Carney and whether or not this is Mark Carney should do a better job of like, you know, making a case for whether or not the blind trust is blind. He's just attacking Pierre Poilievre. That's all he's doing. So the NDP, they're still in the Liberals' bed, as far as I'm concerned. You know, like why aren't you saying anything about this whole thing with Mark Carney? Say something about that.
take Lisa's point that the Liberals played silly bugger in the past, so they can expect some, you know, that is the way partisan politics work. But, you know, it's important for Canadians to have a sense of, like, the ethics guidelines that the public office holders are expected to comply with. And I go back to that Nigel Raitt exchange in 2010. He said the blind trustee is the legal owner of them all now, meaning his assets. That's the way it works when you put it in a blind trust. Pierre Poilievre said today that the Prime Minister lied when he said, I own nothing but cash and real estate. Now, that's a statement he made after he put things into the blind trust. So, like Nigel Raitt said in 2010, things had moved there. I mean, this is complicated stuff, and 99.9% of Canadians will never have to deal with it. But it is a system that, for the most part, is rigorous and seems to work.
It is rigorous and seems to work, and this is why the question isn't the issue for me. I just think, as leader of the opposition, I'm not sure why we would take time on this, especially because, listen to anyone working in politics, watch your receipts, right? And I just think that there's so many other things he can hit the government on. Like, you can talk about tariffs, you can talk about the cost of living, you can talk about things, especially having, like, your right.
He is doing those things, Vandana. He's talking about that, and he's talking about this. This just came up yesterday, so he's got to talk about it. If he didn't talk about it, what do you think his base would say? Yo, you didn't. Here's an opportunity to say something about what Mark Carney may have lied, or he did lie. You've got to, call him out on that. Like, come on. Canadians do care about. I care about it. So stop it.
For a by-election, you want to keep your status as the leader of the Conservative Party, but I just think there's no point in trying to litigate on this, because you're right, it is a vigorous process. People don't understand the Ethics Commission. They know he exists. They know he's also called into account different politicians from both sides of the aisle, so that it is people, I think, do believe that. So I just don't think it's something that is worth his time to raise if he's trying to get attention for his party. Okay,
Lisa, a quick last word on that, and then I want to switch to the other topic. Anything you want to add?
Yes, of course it's worth his time, because there is going to be mistakes made in the next 2 years, and he gets to point back to this point in time when he indicated that this was going to be problematic. And number two, I know that we've gone down the path of judging Mr. Polyv on everything he said in the past. When Minister LeBlanc comes forward and defends the choice of the Prime Minister, I hope that you read back to him his Hansard when he went after Mr. Raitt on exactly the same topic, and ask him whether or not it's something he should be doing. Is it hypocritical of him now defending the Prime Minister when in fact he went after Mr. Raitt in the past? And I think if you're going to do that, then that's fair ball. If not, you're beating up on Conservatives where they don't need to be beat up on.
Right on, Lisa. That's right, and they're not going to do it. I'm going to actually watch for that. If they're going to, when Mr. LeBlanc does come up and start talking about things, hey, defending this blind trust, yeah, hypocrisy, and yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not going to happen. No chance. Or it may, because Lisa brought it up, and they just need to, make sure that they're, playing, being fair to both sides. But we'll see.
Okay. I mean, Mr. Polyv raised the issue today. This is why we're examining this issue today. So, so that, he put it on the table. We've got to look at it and assess it. So that's what we're doing today.
David Cochrane, yeah, right, man. What you're doing today is trying to show the hypocrisy of Pierre Poilievre. And well done. Okay, So let's see if you're going to play ball, like Lisa said, with Dominic LeBlanc when he comes up and defends the blind trust and show the hypocrisy of him. Okay, it's just politics. That's what it is. And so, I don't know. What do you guys think of this? Please comment. This is just CBC in full-blown liberal bias against conservatives. We saw how every time that Lisa spoke, David Cochrane would, defend himself or fact check her. Something like that. And and he didn't do that to the other panelists because he agreed with them. He agreed with everything they said because CBC agrees with everything they said. All right, guys, please like and subscribe. That's all I got today. CBC, I don't know. And we're giving them more money. They're just a biased outfit. See you next time.